Hello and welcome to this edition of the Weekly Dose, Challenge Your Perspective. This is Patrick Dare in Washington, D.C. Dictators do not honor handshakes. They just do not think that they should make deals with anybody because they are the powers that be. If one has any doubt that the handshake between Raila Amollo Odinga, the people's president, and Uhuru Kenyatta was the start of a fresh Kenya, we are mistaken. We are mistaken because we see it before our eyes. The return of Miguna Miguna indicates that Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto and this Jubilee government have no intention whatsoever to honor the people of Kenya and to honor that handshake that represented what we were hoping was a new beginning, a change of direction. In the previous Weekly Dose, I talked about some minimums. And today, I am more convinced that these minimums have to be met in order for any reasonable Kenyan to even start thinking that we are headed somewhere. The very first thing that I would say is that these people must go. First, the Cabinet Minister for Interior, Mr. Matiang'i must go. The Internal Secretary. The Internal Security Secretary. The Director of Immigration, Mr. Gordon Kihalangwa, this person must go. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Joseph Bounett. The Director of Criminal Investigation, Mr. George Kinoti. The Head of the Flying Squad, Said Kiprotich. The OCPD for JKIA and the Attorney General. These are people who must be asked the question, why must you retain your position? How can you retain your position if you are tasked with defending the law, defending the Constitution, and yet you will abuse it without batting an eye? The way Mr. Miguna Miguna was treated cannot be seen in isolation as an individual. This is how this Jubilee government, these dictators intend to rule this country. Right now, I'm calling upon the people's president, Mr. Raila Odinga, to think twice about this handshake. And I believe right now is not the time that the Nyanza people should be put in a position that Uhuru goes into Nyanza trying to make whatever he's trying to make. The point of a handshake is that everything is on the table. All the wrongs that have been done to Kenyans, starting with a stolen election, must be on the table. I called upon the servers to be opened. If these people are talking about a handshake and that they want to honor a handshake and they want to move this country forward, if they want to begin to convince Kenyans, then everything must be on the table. They cannot keep playing an underhand. I believe this Miguna Miguna issue was to send a message. It was to send a message to the people of Kenya that the handshake did not mean that Raila Amollo Odinga, the people's president, has any powers. In fact, I tend to believe that somebody somewhere planned that this was going to be that moment that they were going to humiliate the people's president and tell people that he has no powers. The people's president in this circumstance, shown being shoved by policemen, not being listened to. A picture is worth 1,000 words. The international community saw that. The whole of Kenya saw that. He came to the airport to try and mitigate this matter. And what did the Kenyan authorities do? Ignored him, shoved him around. And yet, it would have only taken one phone call from Uhuru Kenyatta to Mr. Matiang'i, to the Inspector General, to the head of the flying squad, the GSU head, to stop this, and this would have stopped right away. But they let it go on. You must ask yourself the question, why did they let it go on? If this handshake was meant to be a handshake of equals, why did Mr. Kenyatta and the Jubilee government humiliate the people's president, Raila Amollo Odinga? He humbled himself, and he was there being shoved around. We need generational thinkers, and these two people, Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. William Ruto, are not that generational thinkers. They are dictators. They are authoritarian dictators, and they've taken Kenya back to dictatorship. They can do whatever they want to do. They can ignore the court orders. They can flagrantly deny a Kenyan-born citizen his right to enter the country. Yes, there's questions about should Miguna Miguna have presented proper papers. That cannot be ignored. But there are other channels that this could have been handled much better. And so the handshake must be rethought. This must be revisited. The people that died after the elections, this struggle is for them. This struggle is for Msando. This struggle is for baby Pendo. This struggle is for those people that got maimed by the police under the orders of Mr. Matiang'i. And all the way, yes, to Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. Kenya, we are at a crossroad. And people have had times that I say the dialogue has to have revolutionary results. A friend of mine said that that is an oxymoron. Revolution and dialogue. Revolutionary is the idea that changes what direction we are headed to and completely makes a U-turn and looks at Kenya as a people that must be respected as individuals, that the law must be respected, the judiciary must be respected. How do you treat a man that has been born in Kenya? Where do you take him to? Dubai is not his home. The Dubai people would deport him. Where would they deport him to? And this could happen to any other Kenyan. The irony is that in 2003, the Kenyan government brought in a person that has turned out not to be Kenyan at all, purporting that he was a freedom fighter. This person did not have passport or anything, or had not lived in Kenya. But they found him and brought him to Kenya. And for a genuine Kenyan who is coming back under court orders, and whether court orders or not, he is coming back to his country. Now, I have my differences with Miguna. I don't like his style. I have said here and elsewhere that I believe that he lacks the wisdom to look at situations and make good sense of them. I don't know whether he would be that leader that I would think about being a generational thinker in terms of what value in totality would he bring to the people of Kenya. I think he's abrasive in his approach. So this is not only about Miguna. Miguna is a symbol of the dictatorship of this government that must be rejected in totality. And the NASA, if NASA still exists, because we've not seen Watengula anywhere in this crisis, we've not seen Mr. Kalonzo anywhere in this crisis. Certainly Mr. Mudavadi has not spoken in this crisis. If NASA still exists, then NASA must re-examine itself whether they're really serious about leading this country away from where Jubilee wants us to go. They must engage together and come up with one voice to they must completely say no to this kind of rule. We've come way too far for our constitution to be torn at every point. For a minister who depends on the salary of Kenyans, on the sweat of Kenyans, the police that depend on the sweat of Kenyans,